The world of AI and machine learning careers, it can feel pretty confusing, right? But it's also where all the incredible opportunities are. So, how do you actually chart a course from square one all the way to a top-tier job? Well, that's what we're going to break down today. Let's build a clear roadmap together.
Okay, so you look at the news, and it's kind of wild. On one hand, you see headlines about huge layoffs at major tech companies, but then, in the very next breath, you hear about these insane multi-course salaries for AI talent. You've got companies like Meta basically saying they'll pay whatever it takes. So what gives? It's a market of two extremes. Companies are getting rid of some roles, while at the exact same time, they are desperate to hire for others.
And that leads us to the big question, the one we're all asking. With all these conflicting signals, what is the actual path to a successful, high-paying career in AI? That's exactly what we're about to figure out.
All right, here's the game plan. We've touched on that market paradox. Next, I'm going to introduce a really helpful way to think about this. We'll call it the career building. We'll explore each floor, the foundation, the engineering core, and the very top, the top 1%. And then we'll tie it all together with your path to get there.
To make sense of this whole complex career path, let's just imagine it's a 3-story building. It's a simple idea, but it really works. Imagine every AI professional works in this building. And each floor, well, that's a different level of skill, a different level of responsibility, and, you guessed it, a different salary.
So you've got 3 floors. On the ground floor, you've got the foundation. This is where pretty much everyone starts their journey. Then you go up to the second floor, the engineering level. This is where things get a lot more advanced. And at the very top, the penthouse suite, if you will, is the third floor. That's where the top 1% of experts hang out. So let's start where everyone else does, the ground floor.
All right, welcome to the first floor. This is pretty much the main entrance to the entire AI industry. It's the most accessible spot and, honestly, where the vast majority of people get their start. And right here on this foundational level, you're going to find 2 main jobs, the data analyst and the data engineer. Seriously, these 2 roles are the absolute bedrock of the whole AI world. So if you're a fresher just starting out here, what can you expect to make? Well, the typical package is going to be somewhere in the 4 to 6 lakhs per year range. It's a really solid start. And the great thing is, this level is totally achievable with just a few months of real, focused work.
Okay, let's get specific. What does a data analyst actually do all day? Well, imagine this. Your boss at, say, Myntra comes to you and says, "Hey, our sales in Hyderabad totally tanked last month. What happened?" Your job is to be the detective. You dive deep into all the company data to find the real reason. Maybe it was a faulty payment gateway, who knows? But you don't just stop there. You then use tools like Power BI or Tableau to build these cool visual dashboards that make the problem super clear. Then you present it to management so they can make a decision. You're basically the company's data storyteller.
So what's the difference between an analyst and an engineer? It really just comes down to focus. The analyst is all about, well, analysis and communication, telling that story. The data engineer, though, they're much more on the technical side. They're the builders, the architects. They're the ones creating the data pipelines that make sure clean, reliable data is flowing to the analysts in the first place. So if you're someone who really loves to code, the engineer path is probably the one for you.
Okay, time to head up. Let's take the elevator to the second floor, the engineering core. Now up here, the game changes. The focus isn't just on analyzing data anymore. It's about actually building and launching smart AI systems.
And the star of the show on this floor? It's the machine learning engineer, or ML engineer. This is the person who takes all that cool AI potential and turns it into something real, something that actually works as a part of the business. And with that bigger responsibility comes a much bigger paycheck. An ML engineer can expect to pull in somewhere between 10 to 12 lakhs a year. Yeah, that's pretty much double what you'd make on the foundation level.
So what does this role look like in the real world? Let's use HDFC Bank as an example. Think about it. They get thousands and thousands of loan applications. There's no way a human can review all of those manually. So an ML engineer comes in. They take all the old loan data, who got approved, who got rejected, and the reasons why, and they use it to train a machine learning model. This model learns the patterns. Then, it can automatically approve or reject new applications in seconds. And the final super important step is that the engineer deploys this model to the cloud, maybe on AWS or Google Cloud, making it a live, breathing, automated part of how the bank operates.
And this is exactly why that first floor is so important. It's almost impossible to just jump straight to being an ML engineer. Why?
because all those skills you learn on the ground floor as an analyst or data engineer, handling messy data, cleaning it up, managing how it flows, that's the absolute foundation you need to even think about succeeding up here.
All right, let's head to the very top, the third floor. This is where the top 1% of AI pros live and breathe. And up here, it's not just about using the tech that's already out there, it's about literally inventing the future.
The titles you'll see here are things like AI researcher or AI specialist. These are the folks who are working on the absolute bleeding edge of what's even possible.
And as you can probably guess, the pay reflects that elite status. We're talking salaries that start at 24 lakhs, and they can easily climb to 1 crore or even more. Yep, this is where those crazy headline-grabbing salaries come from.
The work up here is just different. These specialists are tackling problems that literally have no existing solution. A great example? Think about the team that built Tesla's self-driving tech a decade ago. That technology didn't exist. They had to invent it from scratch. These are the people working in fields like generative AI and computer vision. Or maybe they're building custom, super secure AI models for a giant company like Infosys, which can't just use public tools because of all their confidential client data.
And this brings us to maybe the single most important rule of this entire career building. You cannot, I repeat, cannot take a shortcut to the top floor. It's just not possible. To become one of these AI specialists, you absolutely must first master everything on the 2 floors below. That hands-on practical experience, it's completely non-negotiable.
Okay, so we've done a full tour of the building. We've seen all 3 floors. Now for the biggest question of all, what's the master key? What's the one thing that unlocks every single floor? What's the real blueprint to get to the top?
It all boils down to one thing. The one skill you need at every single level, from the ground floor all the way to the penthouse, is Python. The source material couldn't be clearer about this. Without Python, you're not going anywhere in this field. It's that simple. It really is the language of AI.
So let's just quickly recap the path, because it really is a step-by-step journey. First, you build your foundation as a data analyst or a data engineer. Then, you use that experience to level up and become an ML engineer. And once you've truly mastered that, then you can set your sights on the top floor and become one of those innovators, an AI specialist.
So there you have it. We've laid out the entire blueprint from the ground floor all the way to the top. The path is super clear, the steps are defined, and the opportunities, well, they're just massive. So really, there's only one question left to ask. Which floor are you going to start building towards?